Okay. So somebody's asked me, how close do you need to be to round it? You have to be really close. Does that help? 0.02, 0.03 away from the whole number. Okay, if it's 0.1, there might be an error. Okay, you might not take it out far enough, but we're looking to be really, really close, 0.02, 0.03 the most, hundredths away. Now, if you do a lab, you're going to be farther off. Okay? Labs are not going to be like book numbers, because you're doing the lab and there's some error that's going to take place. And you weighing things out, you doing the lab, it's not going to be perfect. Hopefully it's good enough to where you can round it and see, yeah, that's probably the answer. Okay? But you have more liberty in the lab. Okay? You don't want to take a number that comes up to be like, for example, if this came up to be 2.8 in the lab, you want to make it 3. You don't want to multiply 2.8 by whatever you need to get it to a whole number, okay? By 5. You don't want to do that. It's going to be way big numbers, okay? So lab, you got a little bit more liberty than you do on these assignments, okay? So the next one, I haven't completed it. I've just left it to where you have to figure out what you need to step 4, what you need to multiply it by to get. So we had step 3, 3 steps. We changed the grams to moles, and then we try to take the smallest number of moles, divide it into each one, and we get an answer. It's 1.00, repeating, to 1.33 to 1.17. Okay, anybody get something different than that? Some of you might have left this 1.2. You're only losing 2 significant digits. You might have left this 1.3. So what happens when you limit it, you create a situation where you're rounding too much, and that rounding really affects you when you come up with whole numbers. Okay? So what I would tell you is I would tell you to focus on the lowest decimal number and try to figure out what you need to multiply that one by if you got 2 decimal numbers. Sometimes you only have 1 decimal number. But focus on the smallest one. And what you can do is you can take 1 divided by that decimal. And what that does is it creates a number that you can multiply that by to get a whole number. So if I would take 0.17 and divide it into 1, that will give me an idea what I want to multiply it by. So I come up with 5.9. So when I take 0.17 and divide it into 1, I get 5.9. Or we could say 6. Okay? If I say 6, then that is my multiplier. So if I multiply everything by 6, they should all come out to be whole numbers. Okay? And it would be the smallest whole number ratio that I can come up with. So that would be the smallest whole number ratio. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Some of you might not have chose that number. Some of you might have chose a different number. But it should have been 6 that you should have chose to do that. Okay? I've lost my writing utensils, so. Times everything by 6. Do you know why I'm choosing to multiply everything by 6? Yep. Yep. And also, now you can kind of guess and check. You really don't want to do that on these, but if you had to, you could guess and check. But there's no need to do that with you guys' abilities. You just would multiply everything by 6. And what you get is C6H8O7. Yes, Adam.
How did you get the 5.9?
I took 0.17. I took 1 divided by 0.17. What do you guys call that in math? When you take, is there a word for that, or?
I don't know.
No? Okay, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Proper fraction or something. Just improper fraction.
Proper fraction, okay?
Oh yeah, it'd be improper fraction.
Okay, so do that, you get an answer, it's 5.9. That tells you, you probably multiply it by 6. Okay, you're not going to come out with a perfect number on these because, again, you're rounding when you do that. So that's how I came up with that, Adam.
Okay, yeah, so like you just take the decimal
Yep,
numbers.
just the
and
decimal.
those under one.
Yep, just the decimals. You could actually take, 1.17 divided by 0.17 and it would get you a number that would be whatever that number. But you need to know what you need to multiply everything by, so you just take the decimal from.
So it doesn't matter which one you put on the top?
When you say which one that you put on top.
Like the 0.17, like that could go over the 1 and it could still give you...
Yep, you just take the decimal and divide it into 1. So if I had 0.33, I would do the same. If that was my smallest one, and I would go ahead and divide it into 1, then that gives me 3. It's kind of an inverted quantity. So what's the inverted quantity of 0.17? It's going to be 6, or really close to 6. What's the inverted quantity of 0.33? 3. Okay? So if I had 0.20 as my smallest decimal, then I divide it into 1, that gives me 5. So then I'd multiply everything by 5. Okay? Some of them are really simple. You don't have to do that. You guys know 0.33 is a third, and you multiply a third times 3 to get rid of the bottom number. Okay? Okay. Enough said about that. You guys will get more practice. You guys need more practice with those steps. Because I know in the past, some students say, well, I've got it down when it comes to quiz or test time like next Friday. And from today to Friday, if you haven't reviewed and you haven't looked back at your stuff, then it becomes more difficult to remember the steps. So we're definitely going to give you time to practice. Okay. So what we're going to do is have you copy that down, and we're going to look at this thing called hydrates. You didn't have a dehydrator in here at home? What do you use it for? Jerky? Okay, so you put the meat in there, and then you dry it down so that you kind of preserve it. Kind of a way to preserve it. Okay, you add something to it, like some salts and some seasonings in that helps preserve it. And jerky's good, right? You could go for some jerky. Okay? Anybody have dehydrators for like fruit? You guys do? You guys do it? Okay. So, there's a lot of things that have water associated with them. Our bodies have water associated with us. In wrestling, they test them at the beginning of the year, and they do what's called a hydration test. If they don't pass a hydration test, then they can't certify it at a certain weight. So you have some guys that will try to get down to a weight without drinking water for a day or two. And it's sweating it out. And that's not good and healthy. So when they would go in and do the hydration test, they couldn't pass it because they're not hydrated. Okay? They have a test that they do based upon color, okay, of the urine. And if they can send it up and they have a calorimeter, it's called a calorimeter in here. And we would use a calorimeter and how, we determine basically the hydration level. Okay, so you want to be hydrated. Your metabolism works really good when it's hydrated. Okay, and you think really good, or you think better, and you're more aware of things, and your surroundings and that. So you want to stay hydrated. A lot of you take water around with you. Compounds some of them are hydrated. So some compounds, like this one, is hydrated. You can tell because there's some moisture associated with them. You can tell that it looks like they're wet. All right? Epsom salt is what we're going to use tomorrow. So Epsom salt is a hydrate. Okay? Epsom salt's a hydrate. I think on the package it says it's a diuretic, I think. It says it is. But it's also used for like sores and blisters and those type of things. Make them feel better. But Epsom salt is a hydrate. So what's a hydrate? It's something that has water in it. So salt is not a hydrate. So if I got NaCl and we're using NaCl, there's no water molecules in it. Okay? There are a few compounds in the back. When they naturally form, they'll bring water in from the environment. And there'll be water molecules. And there'll be a whole number of water molecules associated with it. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to copy down this lab information that we have obtained. Okay? Go ahead and copy that down. Okay, see that? Fine. We're solving for x. So we're doing a little bit like math would do, but we're of course not doing it within a formula or anything like that, algebraic formula. But that x is what we got to solve for, and it's going to be a whole number. So we got to solve for that x. We'll know the COCl2. The COCl2 or the compound out in front will always be 1. So we won't ever have to worry about finding a number for the COCl2. We just got to solve for x. Once we do that, we just substitute it in for x. Okay. So here's what we've done. This is what you're going to do on Monday. You're going to take a solid, you're going to weigh it out, and that weight you'll write down in your lab. Then what you're going to do is you're going to heat it. When you heat it, it's going to evaporate all the water out. It's going to dehydrate it. So then what you're left with is what they call a residue. Residue remains after the water is gone. So the water's gone, you're left with a residue. The residue is the COCl2. So the residue, this is actually COCl2 without the water. Okay, that's what it weighs. What we need to do is we need to find the weight of the water. We're not given it directly, but we can figure it out based upon the residue and the water together. So what would be the weight of just the water? What would it be? 0.73. Questions? How did I get that? Everybody see how I got that? Okay. So now the way you would do these after you find those two weights is one, you got to determine the number of moles of the residue and water separately. So I'm going to have you do that. Now, to find moles of COCl2, what do you have to do?
And the weight of the
Find the molar mass of COCl2. Okay, so you have to do that. Then you got to find the molar mass of water. Once you do that, you can convert grams to moles. So that's what I want you to do. Find the molar mass of COCl2. Find the molar mass of water. Plug that into a setup to solve for moles of COCl2 and moles of water. Okay? I'll come around if you guys need help. And then it's just one easy step after that. So after you do that, it's just one simple setup. What do you guys think off the tape? What do you take off the tape? 215. You're playing sewer?
Yeah.
They look like they got a bunch of snow last night. So you take off during 7th? That's during the 7th period?
Yeah.
of you seem like you're a little lost, like I don't know how to change grams to moles. Okay? We've done that. Once you find the molar mass, cobalt fluoride, that's how many grams are in a mole. And then you need to cancel out grams to get moles. Okay? So, find the molar mass of COCl2, and that tells you how many grams are in a mole.
55 to 50.
Yep. And water. So you gotta look up cobalt's weight, you gotta look up chlorine's weight, and then you gotta find the weight of everything together, and that tells you how many grams are to add together. Yep, and add it all up. You'll treat those separately. So you do one for cobalt chloride, and you do one for H2O. So you do one for COCl2 and you do one for H2O separately. So you'll come up with 2 mole values. One for COCl2 and one for water. That goes down there, and then what goes out in front is the 0.73. And then cobalt chloride would be the same way. What? Yeah, but you put that in chlorine. Yeah. Two hydrates. No, we do them separate. So you're going to do them separate. You're going to use cobalt chloride. Yep. You do water. Yeah, there's 2 different problems. Can I use the 1.61? Yeah. Use the point 88. Limits that. And the reason why, there's 2 digits there, there's 2 digits so take them out a little bit farther than you normally would, because if you don't, you're rounding too much. When you divide, find a mole ratio, you won't. It'll be far. Yep. Change 0.88 grams into moles.
Do you have any clinics for the other?
I don't have it.
So I use
0.73.
0.88 grams.
So you're going to take the 0.88, put it out in front, and you're going to use that as your conversion.
You did all. So you do 120. 0.88 divided by 129. 83, right? Yeah. What was your first one? 129. Yeah. So it's like 0.006. Yeah. I think you said like 100.
This is where I take things for granted. I take things for granted that you guys have done a lot of changing grams to moles. We did that in this unit. We worked through some of those problems. You guys did an assignment on it where you're changing grams to moles. And so I take things for granted and think, well, you guys know how to do that. But it's good that you guys really think these things through. Some of you kind of struggle. Some of you have it down a little bit better. Okay?
So if you came out with 6.07, is that close enough to 6?
Mm-hmm.
Hey Garland, you take the decimal.
Well, on these are a little different. So you're leaving out a step that you don't want to do it now. You want to do that only if you don't come out with whole numbers. You're going to have to take 0.00394 and divide it into 0.003. So you should get all whole numbers. You should get a whole number. What'd you get? 0.0239 divided by 0.00394 should give
Oh, it's 6.
Hey, it should be 6H2O on that one. 6H2O. Oh, I think maybe do this again. Ouch. One. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I did like the name of the whole thing.
Yeah, except yours is actually harder.
Was mine harder?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Let's do 7th period.
I just saw it.
Yeah.
That's why I put it in
I
there.
don't care. It didn't hurt.
Yep, that's all that matters. Yeah. Thanks for checking.
No,
Yeah,
thank you.
because I thought about that and I thought, should I give her incomplete? I'm not gonna give her
Okay.
incomplete because it's not gonna.
Because she came down and I was talking to her about a trick, or a pre-calc test yet, and she said something about AP, and I thought, well, I don't know if you gave her an incomplete, but that, I will let her, she
She
needs to
does
follow
owe
through
me
Monday.
doing a test, but it's
But
not.
she said Monday she's taking care of the test.
Okay.
She didn't, well, you need to just
She'll
communicate
talk
with
to me
her.
today. I have
Okay.
a fourth period.
Okay, that's good to know.
I need your notes from yesterday.
Have what?
Report. Prepare video. The time to,
On when?
next Friday. When you take place.
Yeah, you can take that anytime before then. You'll probably be ready for a Wednesday or school or Thursday sometime.
Alright.